Hello everybody. Today we are studying Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is about writing informative report and analytical report. So in the textbook actually introduced 4 informative report and 4 analytical report. And we're going to go through actually total 8 report and go through what's the difference or common, the area of ABC format, which is abstract, body, and conclusion. So the book actually goes through the 4 type of informative report, which are activity report, progress report, regulatory report, and lab report. Then it also goes through another 4 type of analytical report. First one is a problem analysis. Second one is recommendation report. Third one is feasibility studies, and fourth one, equipment evaluation. So basically, before we begin with informative report, I'd like to actually share with you another YouTube video, which is basically writing a report. So let's get some foundation of writing report. Then, as usual, we're going to basically watch 3 YouTube videos. First one will be writing report, and second one we'll watch informational writing. Third one will be watching analytical report. So as we move along the lecture, we'll watch 3 videos. So let's watch these writing report, get some general idea. What do we need actually in writing report? So let me enlarge the screen and begin the video.
Reports are the workhorses of business communication. Whether delivered as memos, letters, electronic documents, or bound pages, they convey essential information, explain complex situations, and answer important questions, all in a quick, get-to-the-point manner. The first step in writing a get-to-the-point report is to understand what type of report you are writing. While reports can have many names, basically they fall into 6 categories. The incident report examines an incident, such as an accident or an error, in order to record what happened, determine causes, explain effects, and perhaps also to offer solutions. The periodic report provides information at regular intervals, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and so on, in order to keep track of work and plan for the future. The investigative report provides the results of research and testing procedures. The progress report provides details on how a project is going and what needs to be done. The trip or call report shares the results of activities or contacts outside the company. And the major report explores a serious issue of long-term concern to an organization. Once you understand what type of report you are writing, you can start working on your report through pre-writing. First, think about your purpose. What is your report supposed to accomplish? What measurable outcome is your target? Second, analyze your readers. Why do they need this report? How will they use it? What do they already know about the topic? What do they need to know? Third, consider the big picture. Why is this report important to your organization? Besides your primary readers, who else might see it? What are potential ripple effects? Fourth, Do the research that will get you accurate facts. Check databases and files. Consult people. Use a business library. And go to reliable web resources. Fifth, analyze the data to make sense of it. Run and interpret the numbers. Examine the evidence. And make connections. Sixth, outline your report. Use a template from a past report or follow a model. Think through ways of logically ordering the report. Once you've done sufficient pre-writing, you're ready to work on your report's first draft. With a good model or template, you can proceed by drafting various parts of the report in an order that feels comfortable. In other words, you don't have to start with the opening. However, here are some tips for writing the opening, the middle, and the closing. In the opening, put the report in perspective. First, label it with identifying information, including a title or subject line that specifies the type of report plus the specific topic. Second, introduce the purpose, provide background, and preview the report's coverage. Third, to be direct, include a summary of your report's main points, conclusions, and recommendations. In the middle, supply and explain all the information that your readers need. The key here is to carefully organize all your data using one or more logical patterns. Choose an order that makes sense of the information for readers. Consider time, space location, order of importance, categories, alphabetical order, cause-effect, compare-contrast, or hypothesis testing. Notice how in this sample incident report, the writer uses both chronological and cause-effect patterning. Whatever organizational patterns you use, make sure that you make the information accessible by using headings, lists, tables, and graphics. For most reports, you'll put the key points in the opening summary. However, you'll also want to include them, perhaps in greater depth, in your report's closing. If your report is purely informative, simply summarize the main points that the reader needs. If you need to be analytical, add your conclusions about the topic. And if your report is persuasive, you may also need to add your recommendations. Whatever you provide in your closing, remember to also focus politely on the next step. Feedback, a follow-up meeting, the next report, continued work on the project, and so on. In this sample incident report, note that the closing focuses on recommendations and requests feedback. Once you have drafted your report, it's time to step back and ask what needs to be done to strengthen the ideas, the organization, and the voice. In other words, it's time to revise, to add, to cut, and to rewrite. As you work through a printed version of your report, ask yourself these questions. First, are the ideas strong? Is the information complete and correct? Is the thinking solid? Do the conclusions and recommendations follow logically from the information? Where thinking is weak, rework it. Second, does the organization make sense? And is it consistent? If the flow is confusing, untangle it. Add summaries and transitions where helpful. Third, is the tone of your writing objective and professional, but energetic? Where your voice is subjective, unprofessional, or flat, rework the material. Consider as well having a colleague review your first draft for these issues. Fresh eyes will often catch problems that you can't see because you're too close to the material. When you've addressed the key content issues in your report through revising, it's time to refine your writing by carefully examining word choice, sentence style, grammar, punctuation, and design. Pay attention especially to these issues. First, Have you used terminology appropriate to the audience? Have you used plain English whenever possible? Have you defined technical terms unfamiliar to the reader? Second, are your sentences crisp and readable? Read aloud your report to locate and fix choppy, confusing, and rambling sentences. Examine parallel structure in headings and lists. Consider as well whether you can tighten your sentences by using a telegraphic style, which is appropriate to some reports. This style cuts unnecessary personal pronouns, especially as subjects, and provides tight clauses with strong verbs, as well as extensive lists. Third, use grammar check and spell check on your report, but also do your own check of grammar, punctuation, usage, mechanics, and spelling. Be especially careful that you have used keywords and numbers correctly. Finally, refine your report's design. Does the report have lots of white space? A consistent heading system? Well-designed and well-integrated graphics? Again, consider having a colleague help you edit and proofread your report. Fresh eyes may catch details that you miss. Pre-writing, drafting, revising, and refining. These steps will carry you through the challenge of developing a get-to-the-point, reader-friendly report. For more information on writing reports, as well as samples of different types of reports, see Chapter 5 in the Write for Business text.
Okay, let's go back to our lecture. Now, basically, what we learned in this course from beginning to now, we always see that writing begins with brainstorming. Then, to brainstorm, we also do research. After we do the research, gather all the data, we write the first draft. Then we revise it or edit it until we get the satisfactory final report. Also, we talk about over and over here abstract, body, and conclusion. What was abstract? Abstract is introduction. Body, which has middle part, and conclusion is end part. And we're going to actually right now take a look at 4 common informative reports. And I told you that the first one we're going to take a look at activity report. So activity report is something that when you're working in the company, you are reporting what you have done during a certain period of time, or if some project was given to you, you're going to basically give a report to your superior what you have done in this week or in this month or even whole year. So introduction basically, will tell you basically what kind of project this is and how long you began the project, or if this is simply activity report for this week, you will say this is basically activity report for first week of January. Then you go into the body, then basically you organize and emphasize type of activity you have done. Now you could do that by the project or by client, or you can even organize that into chronological order. You can, like, Monday, this is what I did, Tuesday, I did Wednesday. Or you can basically organize into type of activity or project. Then if there was certain problem you have faced, then you want to actually explain problems important to the reader, to your manager or superior. And toward the end, conclusion will be action for continuing ongoing activity. What further you need to do to complete the project, and also plans for addressing certain type of problem. So this is the first report in informative report, first report of the 4 common informative report. Now the second report we have is basically progress report. Third report, actually, it could be called progress report or periodic report. Then, let me see if the next one, actually we have a regulatory report, and lastly we have lab report. So lab report, regulatory report, progress report, activity report, these are 4 informative reports that we are concentrating. So now let's take a look at the second actually informative report, which is progress report. So we can call that either progress report or periodic report. Progress report basically provides your manager with details about the work on specific project. So, and our activity report was more for chronological order, what you have done from Monday through to Friday or this month. Progress report is to give a detail what you have accomplished in this project. And same thing, we will be also using ABC format for progressive or periodic report. Little difference on periodic report is that it summarizes your work on diverse tasks over a specific period of time. So periodic report will be more, it will be about some certain project, but between certain frame of time. Now again, in the progress report, we're going to actually use same abstract, body, and conclusion. Abstract is introduction. In introduction, you will specify what was the purpose of the project and give a brief summary, and you want to basically give them what has been the main progress up to date. In the body, you will explain description of work completed, clear reference to any dead end, or explanation of any delay, description of work remaining, and reference. You want to actually attach those documents. So body will be more complete description of what you have done, and in the conclusion, you will end with a brief restatement of work, and also you can, to promote some confidence, you can say express confidence or concerning or willingness to make suggest adjustment. That's the progress report, which is the second report. Now we are moving to third informative report, which is regulatory report. Now regulatory report is basically trying to comply with some government law or regulation. Many of the especially government granted fund, the company has to submit periodic regulatory report. Now all the public company which actually selling stocks to the public has to actually submit a quarterly report to SEC, which is Security Exchange Commission. So most, and also schools also, we need to submit a regulatory report. And in our basically society, most of the big organizations have to comply with certain type of law or regulation. So regulatory report is to reporting how we comply with the law. In the introduction, we'll summarize, we'll put summary of findings, including statement of extent to which organization is in compliance, and summary of recommended action. So introduction, basically you will say, well, our basically company has been complying with the regulation of SEC, basically, and we briefly stating basically how the organization is in compliance and summary. In the body, you will state organization that emphasize required activities or documents by the regulatory agency, and description of observation, description of problems observed, and data supporting observation. So to support that company is complying with all the regulation, your statement has to basically go along with the data supporting your assertion. Then in conclusion, you will make a recommendation for improvement of compliance. So you say, okay, maybe this quarter or this year, we have met 80% of the basic requirement, and next year we're going to try to improve our ratio to 85%. So you're going to also recommend how you will improve your result. And at the end, summary of consequences if problems are not addressed in timely manner. Now, a lot of negative consequences can happen if you do not comply with the government regulation. Okay, lastly, we have lab report. Lab report will describe work done in laboratory with emphasis on topic such as proposal work, procedures, equipment, problems, result, and implication. As usual, we also use ABC format. Abstract introduction, we state propose, and we capture the summary of basically the lab report. In the body, we put propose or hypothesis of lab work or certain equipment, and what kind of procedure or method were used in lab test. And if there was very unusual thing happen, you want to write down unusual occurrences for result of test. In the conclusion, basically statement or restatement of main result and implication of lab test for further work. Okay, before we move on to analytical report, I'd like to watch one YouTube video which explains informative report. So let me find that video, which will be second video here. Make it larger, and there we go.
Today in writing, we're going to talk about a new genre or type of writing called informational writing. But before we get started, I just want you to think about where you may have seen informational writing or when you may have used informational writing in your own life. Uh-oh, wait a second. Are you feeling like this kid? Are you forgetting about all the times you have used informational writing, or maybe all of the times you may have seen informational writing? In first grade, you wrote an all-about book about sharks, whales, and octopus. You wrote informational pieces about these animals. In kindergarten, you wrote all about books about animals that can be pets, like hamsters, birds, cats, and even dogs. These were informational pieces. Is it all coming back to you now? Are you realizing that you may know a lot more about informational writing than you just thought about 1 minute ago? You have written informational pieces, and you definitely know a lot about informational writing. So today, I'm going to teach you about informational writing. We're going to learn what is informational writing, where can I find it, what does it look like, and how do I do it? And then I've got a special treat. I'm going to tell you what we are going to do an informational writing piece on. First things first, you're probably wondering, since I said the words informational writing so many times, what is informational writing? Informational writing can be found in a nonfiction text that contains fact. It's a type of writing that is factual or true. Informational writing cannot have your opinions or feelings because not everyone might agree with your opinions or feelings. The purpose of informational writing is to inform or to teach others. Informational writing contains information that we want to share with others so that they can gain new knowledge. The people that look at informational writing or read informational writing, the audience is peers or your friends and classmates that are your age, teachers, researchers, or even experts. All people who want to gain new knowledge and become smarter about a topic use informational writing to learn facts. Now that you know what informational writing is, you're probably wondering, wait a second, what does informational writing look like again? Well, let's take a look at a few different types of informational writing on a Google Safari. Now, the first thing I think of when I think of informational writing is actually the newspaper that I read every day. The newspaper tells us true events or facts that happen each day. It tells us the weather, things that the president has said, news about bad guys being put in jail, news about good people doing great things, even news about other countries. I'm also noticing that the newspaper has real photographs and things like headings. Another great place you might see informational writing is actually in an encyclopedia. Encyclopedia is really just a book of facts. And writers in an encyclopedia cannot include their opinion. They can't say that a bat is the coolest animal because not everyone agrees. Everyone who writes for an encyclopedia has to teach facts. Encyclopedias contain facts about animals, about weather, about plants, and about many things in science and social studies. But the one place you've probably seen the most examples of informational writing is probably right here in a nonfiction book. If I Google nonfiction book, a lot of books come up, such as books about animals, like turtles, or even a book about hurricanes, books about mummies, about tornadoes. There are even nonfiction books about how to write a book. Ooh, thanks to that Google Safari, we kind of know where we can find informational writing. We can find informational writing inside of a nonfiction book or text. Just to remind you, we've learned a lot about nonfiction features that can help you find informational writing. Nonfiction features include headings. A heading tells the reader what the section of the book is about. This book has a section on how lions rule. Nonfiction books also have a table of contents. A table of contents gives the heading and beginning page number of each section of the book, like this book on the Everglades. A nonfiction book also has a diagram, which is a drawing or a labeled picture that shows the parts of something, like this diagram of a shark and all of its body parts. Nonfiction books also have captions. A caption is the words next to or underneath a picture that explain what it is or what it is about. Under this picture of the Everglades, you see a caption that describes the picture. Finally, a nonfiction book usually has real photographs. A photograph is a picture made with a camera that shows how things look like in real life, like this fire truck. So we've talked about where we can find informational writing in a nonfiction book. We've talked about the purpose for writing informational pieces to teach facts. And we've talked about the audience that uses informational writing to gain new knowledge or to learn facts. But you're also probably wondering, how in the world am I going to write an informational piece? How am I going to teach others facts? You need 4 important things: an introduction, facts, details, and a conclusion. We're going to take a closer look at each of these 4 important things. And pay attention to the colors that I am using for each word. They're going to help you when you self-assess your informational piece later on in our unit. All right, first up is an introduction. An introduction is a sentence or a couple of sentences that tells the reader what your whole story is about without giving any facts. An example is, a shark has many interesting features. I didn't tell you what those features are. I just wanted to get you interested in my writing. Another example would be, sharks have many body parts that help them to live. I did not tell you that a shark has gills, that a shark has large fins, or even that a shark has giant teeth to catch prey. Those are all facts. I keep my facts out of my introduction. Once you have an introduction, you're ready to include your facts. Facts are a statement that can be proven true. An example of a fact would be, a great white shark has 350 teeth. Or, sharks breathe underwater using gills. Once you have your facts, you're ready to add details to describe those facts and make a person reading your writing be able to picture things in their mind. Now, notice what I did here. Here, we have our facts. I took our facts and I put them down here in pink. But I also added some details. Details can be things like adding definitions or adjectives to your writing to describe things. Look at our first example. A great white shark has 350 razor-sharp teeth that are 3 inches long or the size of your biggest finger. I added details and adjectives like razor-sharp or 3 inches long. At the bottom, I wrote about sharks breathe underwater using gills. I gave a definition of gills, and I said, which are special organs that can remove air or oxygen from the water. Once you've got your facts and your details, you need to wrap it up with a conclusion. A conclusion reminds your reader what your writing was about without including facts. An example of a conclusion would be, I hope you enjoyed learning all about sharks and their lives in the ocean. No facts, just remind your reader that you wrote about sharks and how they live. Now that you've reminded yourself all about informational writing, it's time I told you. What are we writing about? This beautiful green statue. Does anyone know what it's called? You guessed it, the Statue of Liberty.
Okay, basically, the video go through same thing what I've been lecturing. We talk about introduction, facts, detail, conclusion. What's the introduction? Abstract. What's the facts and detail? Body and conclusion. Okay, let's now move on to analytical report. In the analytical report, basically, the book goes through 4 actually analytical reports, and they are problem analysis. Second one is recommendation report. Third is feasibility report. Fourth is equipment evaluation. And let's go through each one of them. First one is problem analysis. Problem analysis, somebody is writing a report to basically analyze what is a problem. Problem can be many things. It can be employee problem, customers, dissatisfaction problem, problem with the technology, problem with some type of equipment. So in the problem analysis, first we are writing introduction, abstract, what is proposed, and summary of the problem. What is the problem, and what is this report about? In the body, talk about background, what has been previous problem and what has been done, or is this the first problem that is occurring in the company? And descriptions of problem, and if there are certain data supporting this problem, include the data. And in the conclusion, basically brief restatement of the problem, degree of urgency, and suggest next step, hopefully some solution. Second one, we'll talk about recommendation report. Recommendation report basically presents readers with specific suggestions that affect personnel, equipment, procedures, products, service, and like. And like usual, we also use ABC format for recommendation report. In the abstract, which is introduction, we again specify what is purpose of this report, and we write brief reference to the problem. Then we recapture summary of the recommendation. In the body, supporting data, supporting detail about the problem. What are the recommendations? What data are there to support recommendations? What's the benefit? What's the drawback? Let's say if solution to the problem will cost so much money, you have to write how much, what would be the drawback, pro and cons. But once the company resolve that problem, they can move on to serve the either customer or going into the next project. In the conclusion, basically, it will briefly restate basically the recommendation, main benefit, and you will offer to help the next step. Okay, basically, then there's I don't think the book goes through feasibility study and equipment evaluation. Basically, oh, there we go, guide for feasibility study. Feasibility study basically is to find out whether it is feasible to, let's say, invest money into certain project, or is it feasible to basically have a new business plan, or is it feasible to basically purchase the building. Any kind of feasibility study is to find the alternative facts, the problem. So in the feasibility study, they have to choose the format. Again, use the ABC structure.